Hello, this is Mish, and welcome to another review of the TV show called Taboo. So this was for episode 3. If you've not seen the episode yet, possibly pause this and come back to this video when you have, as this will contain spoilers. So we see this episode begin with Winter on the beach, and she manages to find the silver-toothed man after James Delaney has killed him. So we see that she then gets one of her friends to cut the tooth out. Pretty rugged scene, being that the fact that they're children on the beach looking for a dead body. So we learn the situation to what happened last week, how the dead body is now on the beach, and what has happened to James Delaney. So James was actually being tailed by the Americans, and they witnessed the attack, and they witnessed the biting of the neck, and however James removed the silver-toothed man's heart. So the Americans cleaned up for him. They took James Delaney back to fix him up, and they threw the body of the silver-toothed man into the river. So then we see a bit of a conversation with the American. So at this point, obviously James Delaney doesn't have much bargaining power as he's strapped to a table near death, and the American, I think his name is Dumbarton, has a knife to him as well. So there's a conversation around what does James Delaney actually want. So he says he wants to send a message to the President of the United States to say he wants the monopoly of fur for tea to all the tea in China, and he will work with them around Nootka Sounds. That's the information that the American wanted, so he lets him go. So after that point, what does James do? Well, he goes home and he boards up his house in defense because he fears another attack from the British. It was an awesome scene with Brace and James Delaney, because Brace is the butler. He's seen it all before. He's seen his dad do the same thing. So when he says, get a carpenter and board up the windows, there was an awesome line from Brace which was saying, the same carpenter and the same old nails will go into the same old holes, and you can sit there with the same old gun, and at what point do you risk your life? It was just a really good scene and a really good line. I really liked it. And it's because Bryce has seen it all before with James's father, obviously. He can see at this point it seems like it's all going to end very badly for James Delaney. So then we kind of cut to a scene with Sir Stuart Strange, because there's a scene where Delaney goes down to the wharf, makes a deal with Atticus, and he goes off to see Thoit. So what's he doing with Thoit? He's making a will. So Thoit obviously sends the will to the East India Court, and we also see that James has sent a note to the king. So the whole point is that the will now says if James Delaney dies, that all his assets, all his property will go to America. So now it's in East India's company's interest to keep him alive. So it was a very, very smart move. It's a really interesting part of the story so far, how that's really flipped it on its head. They were trying to kill him, now they have to keep him alive. So the only people, I guess, who would possibly want to kill him now would probably be the Americans, because if they kill him, they get all his land automatically. So, interesting scenario. He just thinks the Americans are less of a threat at the moment. So the note that was sent to the Prince Regent was saying, I guess, the same deal that he wants to do with America, but he kind of mixed it up a little bit, saying it was around sea otter fur with China, and he didn't mention tea. So now the coup and the Prince Regent are aware of Delaney and Nootka Sounds and all that situation. So the Prince tells Coop to go and do business with him. So we see another interesting conversation between Coop and Sir Stuart Strange. I guess the first time we've seen them talk to each other, but it's just another interesting conversation in the episode. I really like Cooper saying, I know everything. And he's saying, well, how do you know this? And he turns around and says, the East India Company has 104 spies. I have 202. It was just a really good line that he knows everything. He's very knowledgeable about everything that's going on. But the interesting part around that conversation, towards the end, Coop says, why would James Delaney hate the East Indian Company so much? What did you do to him? And that is an interesting topic. Immediately I thought it's probably a revenge for the slave trade situation that the East India Company has. But maybe there's more to it that we'll find out as the episodes go on. So then we see Coop heading away and trying to make a deal at the theatre with Lorna Bowe. So he sends her a message. Now we'll get into that a bit later because Lorna Bowe comes into the story a bit more towards the end. But we also see James Delaney still searching the house for information and documents. So he searches the cellar, found his mother's dress. So that, for me, confirmation that the lady in the lake that he keeps seeing is actually his mother. So that is also quite a good revelation. A lot of information from that scene, because before he goes upstairs, it's interesting to see that Winter crawls through and she informs him that she sometimes sleeps there. There's good character development from her. We find that she witnessed the killing. She took his tooth to give it to him. So she's really trying to build a relationship with him, as she thinks that he can give her knowledge, take her around the world. She's asking him to teach me about magic, and she says she knows about the bird on his neck. Then James goes upstairs, continuing to search for these documents, and he goes to his mother's room, and he has quite a few flashbacks, and he almost has a premonition or a message from his mother to search in the fireplace. So he does that. He sees that bird again. We have a real confrontation when Brace comes up to see him, saying his food is ready. And we see him kind of saying, what happened to my mother? Because she was locked in this room. She wasn't allowed to leave when she was sick. And also they were saying that he was saying that she can't leave because of what she was. Then, there's more information that Brace is not telling him, and he wants to get out of him. And also he said that he knows about the bird as well, the bird burn on the back of his neck, because his mother had it as well. So there's a lot of mystery around Brace and his mother and what happened there. Okay, so on to the next scene. We see Delaney head down. There was a scene a few episodes ago, I think it was the very first episode, where he catches the eye of Godfrey. So when the meeting and he was talking to the East India Company, he kind of recognized Godfrey, which is the note taker for the East India Company. I wondered why that situation occurred, and we have the reason here. They were actually old friends when they were both in the East Indian Companies together. Delaney somehow figures out that Godfrey is actually a male prostitute in his off time. So he goes down to that location to strike a deal with him, to say, give me the information that you're getting from the East Indian Company when you're writing it down, and also when they raise their hands, so you don't write it down. So he makes a deal saying he'll protect him and give him money for this information. So let's see how that goes, because if Godfrey's found out to be betraying them, I don't think it's going to end well for him. After that, we see some back and forth conversation with Delaney, James Delaney, and his sister Zephyr. So he mentioned that he's restoring his father's office, he's registered the company, and he's readying his ship. Now, what I don't understand about this conversation, at the very start, he says, when the company has fallen, we can leave. So that's to his sister Zephyr. So for me, there's two sides to that. Either he's saying when the company has fallen, so is he referencing that he's going to try and destroy the East Indian Company? Or is he saying the company that he is making, when that has fallen, possibly it's just a sideshow for another goal? So that was interesting. Could be either of those, I think. So the letters back and forth to his sister, pretty awkward, and obviously kind of confirms what we've all thought for a few episodes, 2 episodes now, that there's a history, a really taboo history between himself and his sister. And she keeps dismissing his advances now, but he's still trying. Then we see an even more awkward scene with Delaney and Zilpha's husband, Thorn Greery. So he comes around. Yeah, pretty awkward. And he said, I guess what makes it worse is that Thorn Greery actually likes the situation that occurred, which took me by surprise because I didn't think he was going to do that. I thought he would be more out for revenge, but he says it excites him. So yeah, that was pretty weird and pretty creepy. He's saying that he came around to say thank you because he now knows the secrets in her head. So let's go from one awkward scene to an even more awkward scene. So we see that Zilpha organizes a meeting with James just to say, call things off, this is it, this is the last thing we're going to do, and that's it. So the incest is rife within this episode. She accepts that it's done, but he doesn't. So I guess we'll see where that goes. Then we have another scene with Zilpha, and she's at home having dinner with Thorn, her husband, and he's raising the fact that she is not pregnant. Obviously they're trying. Things get pretty heated in that scene because she's implying that they don't have any money, and he doesn't really care, saying he can get money, but you can't have babies. So it's this awkward situation. Don't know where that's going to lead. Maybe it's an intentional that she's not getting pregnant. Well, let's see where that goes, because that could become real heated. That could be a reason why they split apart. Or maybe she is actually going to realize that he's a complete douche and leave anyway. So you never know. But if something happens with her, I think that Thorne Greery will target James Delaney for the reason for it anyway. Okay, now on to the next scene, which is Lorna Bowe. So she arrives at James Delaney's house, saying she's got a deal for him. Just give me the house, and she'll give him her share of Nooka Sounds. So she's been shoulder tapped by Coop. So that to me says that Coop is wanting her to take control of his assets within England and let James deal with the American assets so they can work together. Kind of simplifying things in a way, but there may be some backstabbing going on there at the moment. But at the moment, that's kind of an overview of how I think Coop is playing the game. But we see that James knows that she's in great danger because she's dealing with the Crown, and now she's dealing also at East India Company and probably America as well. So she's now become involved, and she doesn't have the leverage that he does at the moment. So he's warning her, this is very dangerous, and he lets her stay there as well to try and protect her, saying, don't go to work, it's too dangerous. So she goes to work. Now the thing is with the theatre, it looks like the situation with theatre in those days, it would be after the theatre show, the actresses become prostitutes. That's how I interpreted that. But she doesn't. Lorna Bowe doesn't do that. But that doesn't stop someone selling her to the Duke of Richmond. So at the end of the show, she gets tricked into a carriage. Then she has an altercation with the Duke of Richmond, stabs him, and it doesn't cause him any major damage, but enough to get him to say, I'm going to put you on a gallows pole. You're dead. And we see that James comes along to save her as well. But the point is there, who has set her up? Because that whole situation has been caused because they knew that she would not accept the advances of the Duke of Richmond, that she was going to attack him and cause that outcome. So who has set her up? So that is the episode in a nutshell. So much happened. It was really jam-packed. Even though not a lot of action, it's still just jam-packed with plot twists and turns and more character development. It's really quite full of information. So I've probably missed on a few points. But I'm going to leave you with 3 questions that I'm raising here. So one would be, who set up Lorna Bowe? For me, my answer for that is the East India Company. Because I think the East India Company have realised that Coop is working with her to try and get things sorted with Delaney so they can make a deal with him. And to get rid of that situation, they're going to try and take her out. And that is what they've done here. What's your thoughts on that? Do you agree that it's the East India Company that set that up with the Duke of Richmond? Another question here. Is Thorne Greery still a threat? Because he threatened James Delaney in court when they were organising the payment of all the workers for his father. He said, you're dead. But now he has changed because he is so excited by the situation that has occurred. He's obviously a bit crazy. So he seems happy. But for me, I don't think he's a threat right now. But a couple things could happen. He could get offered money, which obviously they need to maybe do something to James Delaney. So that could be an option. Another option would be, what if Zilpha leaves? Or what if Zilpha dies? Or what if something happens to Zilpha? Would he then blame James for that situation? I think that is quite likely. So I could see Zilpha saying, I'm done here because he's crazy, he's dangerous, he doesn't treat her right, she's going to leave. Then he would target James. So that could be an option. What are your thoughts on that? And the last thing here, when the scene with Coop and Sir Stuart Strange, Coop mentioned, why does James Delaney hate the East Indian Company so much? One thing that's obviously a big flashing neon light is the slave trade with East Indian Company. And that is definitely a valid point and why he would want to bring them down or seek revenge. But you have to, once again, envision that this is 1800s. His motives, whilst it could be very personal around that I don't think that would be the only reason. I think we're seeing something here personal on top of that definitely the slave trade is definitely a major point here, but there's other things as well around the East Indian Company that they have done, and he thinks that they require, I guess, punishment for. So it will be fascinating to see what has happened and where that goes. So all in all, amazing episode. Really liked it. Once again, fantastic acting across the board. The scenes, the script, the plot twists, really good. Really enjoyed it. So let me know your thoughts. Did you enjoy it? Do you think my questions and answers are valid? Leave me some feedback below. Always appreciate that. And thumbs up if you liked the video as well. Thumbs down if you didn't, obviously. And subscribe for future content from myself. Also, if you subscribe, hit that little notification button next to the subscribe button just to get the notifications from me when I post some new episodes. So I enjoyed making this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave me some feedback once again. And until next time, this is Mesh, and I'll see you later.